In this video, we are going to address the theme of how to establish production in a new location at an international level. So how to expand the production through projects. Could you please, Petri, tell how does an international capacity expansion project start? In other words, what does such a project include, like its first business-focused steps?
Yeah. Thank you. So I have, of course, personal experience about the project that we were executing in Singapore. I was responsible there as a project director, and also I was responsible for the early operations of that facility, continued after the project as a managing director there. So that one I know very well. But of course, at the same time, when Neste was selecting Singapore as one location, there was consideration of other locations. And there were several locations that were evaluated. The first location that was decided was Singapore, but soon after that, Neste made a decision to invest also to Rotterdam. So if you look at those decisions afterwards, there was really very aggressive target to increase the capacity. We were investing first in Porvoo for a facility that was having less than 200,000 tons of annual capacity. We invested 2 such facilities in Porvoo, and then the big step was to make a decision to invest in Singapore, where the capacity was 800,000 tons. And of course, Singapore is an interesting location, and if we look now after making that decision, that what were some of those considerations. Of course, some considerations are that what is the logistics related to that facility? What is going to be the source of the feedstocks that are going to be used in that facility? How you are going to be importing the feedstock to the plant? And when and how you are going to be exporting the product, and where the product market is going to be. So in principle, you always have this overall consideration that if you need to have logistics cost, is it cheaper to transport feedstock, or is it cheaper to transport product? So whether you are targeting to be closer to the product market, or are you going to be closer to the feedstock market? And of course, in case of Singapore, the thinking was that in Southeast Asia, there is quite a bit of feedstocks that are interesting, and therefore the logic behind selecting Singapore was that that was very close to potential feedstock markets. In case of Rotterdam, you can say the other way around. There is, at least not initially, so much feedstocks that would be available in that area, but the product markets are close. Of course, when the business has been developing, this has been turning around as the feedstock base has been expanding, and also Rotterdam has feedstocks that are sourced close by, but in the initial phase, that was the case.
You started in Finland with 2 Porvoo facilities, and then you moved to Singapore and then to Rotterdam, partly in parallel projects. So could you tell how did you manage actually this kind of a step from organizational sense? So how did you start managing your operations in Singapore, like for example establishing this owners team or some other managerial issues that you try to ensure that you really have a path towards success with this capacity expansion?
Yeah. Of course, when we are looking at where the technology development happened and where we had the first facilities where we gained the operating experience, that was all happening in Finland, in Porvoo. And that was a center of gravity of all these activities. And of course, during this period, we had individuals that had been participating in research, had been participating in engineering design of these first facilities. So there was quite a lot of experience that had been accumulated into the organizations in Finland during that time already. And when we started to develop the projects for other locations, the idea was that we would be using to such extent as possible some of the same key individuals that would be participating in these other projects. But it was also simultaneously recognized that we need to have a location in the company that is responsible for further development of the technology, is going to be able to support the project on all the technology issues. As this is a proprietary technology, we cannot call a licensor and ask that how this should be done. We are always in a situation that whatever technical detail we have to decide, we have to make the decision ourselves and take responsibility that this decision is such that it's going to be working. So therefore, in this organization we had this thinking that we need to have some kind of core team that was called owners team that is responsible for developing the plant construction project, how to do the engineering, how to do the procurement and construction of those facilities. But they all the time are faced with detailed technical questions, and those detailed questions have to be answered timely. And it's not possible to have all those experts available in the project team that would be working in some international locations. So therefore you need to have also an organization that is supporting these projects.
How many individuals there actually are in a project, or were in a project specific owners team, for example, in Singapore?
Yeah. Of course, that depends on what kind of execution strategy is defined for the project. But in our case, as this is our proprietary technology, we decided that we need to have a core team that has individuals that have project management experience, individuals that are experienced in construction management, process engineering, civil engineering, mechanical, so all the engineering disciplines that are needed. So easily we are talking about the size of the team that is something between 15 and 20 persons.
Okay. And then this technical specialist team, which is outside the project, which supports projects and maybe does some research and development of the technology. So how many individuals there were in that level?
Easily a much larger number of individuals, because there are specific tasks that are related to this kind of facility. So if we are talking about, for example, detailed design of some specific process equipment, there may be experts that are experts in rotating equipment, compressors, in pressure vessels. They are not the same individuals. We may need to have process safety experts. Material selection is a very critical knowledge area. They tend to be specialists. So this is expanding very rapidly to a large number of individuals that are contributing to specific tasks and participating in reviews and participating in design decision making on their specific areas.
And these people you have located in Finland, where you have the or had located in Finland, where you had the original plants that you built?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and Neste has its R&D facilities and also the engineering organization that are located mainly in Porvoo in Finland. So it is quite natural that this knowledge and this resource pool has a central role there.
Could you still please even briefly summarize a little bit about what were the most central criteria of selecting the country when you started then moving outside Finland? So what are the key issues? You maybe mentioned them already, but if you briefly could still summarize a little bit about that?
The decision making is really a business decision in that sense that you need to analyze what are those factors that are having an impact on the assumed profitability of the project. And therefore, of course, you have to look at what is the capacity of the facility, what is going to be the costs of operating the facility in that location, cost of maintaining that facility, and then how the logistics for incoming feedstocks and outgoing products would be organized, what's the cost of the logistics. And of course, one important part is also to understand that do we have the capability to execute the project in that location, because some location may be attractive from these business considerations, but for some reason that location is something that, for example, there is not a stable society, not a stable government, not investment protections available, or you have not skilled labor available, you have uncertainties how the country is going to be managed. Those have big impact, and if we see that still after those considerations some location is interesting, do we have the capability to execute it? If we feel that yes, we can build that kind of concept, that we are confident that we can build it there, then it becomes a relevant case for investment decision.
Thank you very much, Petri, for this interview on how to expand the capacity abroad, internationally. Wonderful information where you highlighted how the projects are connected to business and how these business decisions are made or what they are. Thank you very much, Petri.
Thank you.